The rain over Seoul that night did not fall so much as Hunt. It came down in slanted sheets across the Han River, hammering the glass of the Cheongye Tower until the neon signs bled sideways into the gutters. On the 42nd floor of a private restaurant called Baeko, a woman in a borrowed uniform was about to whisper a sentence that would collapse an empire. Her name was Naya Carter, and her hands had not stopped shaking since she stepped off the service elevator. She was 27 years old, 7 months pregnant, and $3,000 in debt to a man in Chicago who did not care that she had crossed an ocean to find a ghost. Under the black apron, her belly pressed against the tray. Under the tray, tucked in a folded linen napkin, sat a silver lighter with a tiger etched into its face. The metal had gone warm from her palm. Across the dining room, past the low lamps and the wall of black orchids, a man was walking toward the corner booth. He wore a suit so precisely cut it seemed to erase the air around him. His footsteps made no sound on the marble. 2 bodyguards flanked him. A third watched the door. The maitre d' bowed so low his forehead almost brushed his knees. Nia's supervisor grabbed her elbow. "Table 9, wine first. Do not speak. Do not look at him. If he asks a question, another server will answer." "Yes, sir," she said. Her supervisor stared at her stomach. "And if you drop that tray, you're gone tonight, understand?" "Yes, sir." She did not drop the tray. She crossed the room the way a woman crosses a frozen lake, one careful footfall at a time, listening for the crack. If you have ever wondered how far a person can push their own fear before it breaks them, stay with this. What happened next in that restaurant is the reason a city's underworld learned a new name by morning. Before you scroll away, listen, because in 6 minutes, one whisper is going to put a target on a pregnant woman's back and drag the most dangerous man in Korea into a war he thought he had already survived. She reached the table. She poured the wine. She set down the small ceramic dish of pickled radish, then the seared abalone, then the bowl of clear broth. Her hand hovered above the napkin. "My brother told me to find you," she said very quietly, "if he ever vanished." The room did not go silent all at once. It went silent in layers. First the 2 men at the next booth, then the pianist whose fingers stopped mid-phrase, then the servers by the wall who bowed lower, then the bodyguards whose hands slid inside their jackets. Kang Min-jae looked up. He was 34. His face was the face of a man who had learned as a boy not to blink when someone raised a hand to him. Black hair combed straight back, a thin scar along the left side of his jaw that only showed when he swallowed. He did not blink now. "What did you say?" he said. It was not a question. Nia unfolded the napkin and laid the silver lighter on the white cloth between them. For a long second, Min-jae did not move. Then he reached out one finger and turned the lighter over, so the etched tiger caught the lamp. His breath left him in a slow, uneven line. The bodyguard on his right whispered something into his cuff. Min-jae raised a hand, one small motion, palm down, and the whisper stopped. "Sit," he said to Nia. "I'm working, sir." "Sit." She sat. He looked at her for a full 10 seconds. He looked at her face, at her belly, at the callus on her thumb from carrying trays, and at the hollow under her eye that meant she had not slept properly in a long time. Then he looked at the lighter again. "Marcus," he said. "Yes." "When?" 14 months ago. He sent me a message. He said if he didn't come home by spring, I was to find you. He said you would understand." Min-jae's jaw moved once. He picked up the lighter. He weighed it in his palm the way a man might weigh a stone that used to be a house. "Get her coat," he said to no one and everyone. "We are leaving." A bodyguard cleared his throat. "Sir, the schedule?" "Burn the schedule." They walked out of Baeko into the storm, and by the time the elevator doors closed on the private garage, the phones of 6 different men in 3 different cities had already lit up with the same 2 words. He moved. The car was a matte black sedan with windows that did not let light through. Min-jae sat opposite Nia, the lighter closed inside his fist. Rain slapped the roof. The driver took the ramp too fast. "Where are we going?" Nia said. "Somewhere they cannot follow." "Who is they?" "I don't know yet." He looked out the window. "That is what frightens me." Nia laughed, a short, unhappy sound. You, frightened. Everyone is frightened, Miss Carter. The powerful ones only lie about it better. She pressed her palms flat against her belly. The baby kicked once, hard, as if answering. Somewhere behind them, a car horn blared, then a second, then a third, and then the driver said in Korean, "We have a tail," and Min Jae's hand went inside his jacket for the first time. "Down," he said. The rear window burst. Glass rained across the leather seat. Nia felt something warm on her cheek and did not know if it was rain or blood. Min Jae had already pulled her sideways across the seat, one hand cradling the back of her head, the other braced against the door. The sedan swerved. The driver said something short and vicious. Two more shots hit the trunk. Then the car dove into a tunnel and the sound of the world went dull. "Hospital," Nia said. "No hospitals, not yet." Min Jae's voice was oddly steady. "They know every hospital in this city. We go to An." She did not ask who An was. She was staring at the small pearl of glass caught in her hair and trying not to think about the shape of a bullet. An turned out to be a woman, 60 years old, gray hair cropped short, hands like a piano teacher's. Her clinic sat above a laundromat in a neighborhood called Sinseol-dong, 3 blocks past the last streetlight that still worked. She did not ask questions. She checked Nia's pulse, checked the baby's heart with a portable monitor, cleaned the cut on her cheek with something that stung like a slap, and then poured Min Jae a cup of tea he did not drink. "She needs to rest," An said in Korean. "She needs to live," Min Jae answered. Same sentence, different verbs. He went to the window. He watched the street for a long time. Then he opened his fist and looked at the silver lighter. 5 years ago, in a warehouse near Incheon, 3 men had sat around a folding table with a bottle of soju between them. Min Jae had been 29. Marcus Carter had been 32, an American with a soldier's shoulders and a librarian's eyes. The third man had been Cha Do-yoon, Min Jae's oldest friend, the man he called brother in every language he knew. That night, the 3 of them had melted a single block of silver in a small crucible and poured it into 3 identical molds, and each of them had etched the tiger with the tip of a knife. It was a joke. It was a vow. It was the last time in his life Min Jae had believed friendship could survive money. 6 months after that, Marcus had disappeared. 2 years after that, Cha Do-yoon had betrayed him. The lighters had gone with them into the dark, and Min Jae had spent the years since teaching his own heart to hold its breath. Now one of them was here, on a countertop in a clinic that smelled of iodine, next to a paper cup of cold tea. And the woman sleeping in the next room was carrying Marcus Carter's blood. "An," Min Jae said. "Yes." "How long can she stay hidden?" 2 nights, maybe 3. After that, people will notice the extra rice I am buying." 3 nights is enough. He walked out into the rain. 2 of his men were waiting by a second car. Their faces were carefully blank. "Find Cha Do-yoon," Min Jae said. "I don't care if he is in a temple or in a coffin. Bring him to me." They looked at each other. "He hasn't been seen in 3 years, sir." "I know exactly where he has been for 3 years. Bring him." By dawn, a private jet was in the air over the Yellow Sea. By noon, a man in linen pants and a grease-stained apron was pulled out of the kitchen of a noodle shop in Dalian and folded into the back of a van without ceremony. By dusk, Cha Do-yoon was sitting across from Kang Min Jae in a basement room lit by a single bulb, and his hair had gone completely white. "You look like a ghost," Min Jae said in Korean. "I have been trying." "Marcus is alive." Cha Do-yoon did not react. He simply lowered his gaze to the concrete floor between them and let out a small breath. "I know. You know. I have known for 11 months. The silence in the room was so heavy Nia could hear it from the top of the stairs, where she was not supposed to be standing. An had told her to sleep. An had not told her the walls were thin. "Then why did you not come to me?" Min Jae said. "Because if I came to you, they would have killed him. Because you and I both know what you are capable of when you are angry. Because there is a woman I love in Dalian, and I did not want her to die for a truth I could not prove. And now his sister is in your house. Now the lighter is on your table. Now the truth walks on its own 2 feet, and I do not have to carry it anymore. Chadoyun looked up. His eyes were wet. Brother, listen, what you are inside of, it is not a war between mafias. It is not even a war between countries. There is an organization. They have no flag. They have no name in any language you would recognize. Inside our operations, we called them the Ring. The Ring. They own the seams, between governments, between banks, between armies. Marcus was inside them for 4 years before I found out. He was trying to get to the man at the top, and the man at the top. Cha Do-yun swallowed. The man at the top has your face, Minjai. Not your face, older, colder, but the same face. Minjai did not move for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice had gone very quiet. My father died 21 years ago, in a car accident, outside Busan. I identified the body. You identified a body, it was not his. Above them, on the stairs, Nia sat down slowly because her knees had stopped working. They moved her before sunrise. An's clinic was traded for a shipping container converted into a safe house, buried inside a warehouse district by the port. The container had a bed, a small heater, a bathroom the size of a closet, and a steel door that could stop a rifle round. Min-jae did not sleep. He stood outside the door with a cup of black coffee going cold in his hand, and he watched the sky slowly turn from black to the color of pigeon feathers. You should eat, Nia said when she came out at 7. Later. You said that last night. I meant it last night too. She sat on an overturned crate. She wore one of An's sweatshirts, 3 sizes too big, sleeves rolled twice. She looked younger without the uniform. She looked like the woman Marcus had once described in a bar in Manila when he was 3 drinks in and homesick. My baby sister, mouth like a lawyer, heart like a bank vault. Tell me about him, Nia said. He saved my life. When? An assassination attempt at a rest stop outside Wonju. 2 men with knives, a third with a rifle on the overpass. Marcus was passing through. He should not have stopped. He stopped. Minjai shrugged, the smallest motion. After that, we ate breakfast together every Tuesday for a year and a half. He never once told me he was intelligence. I never once told him I was Mafia. We both knew. We both pretended not to. It was the most honest friendship I have ever had. He always did that, Nia said. Pretended not to know things. Made you feel like a person first. It made you tell him everything. Yes, she placed her hand on her belly. There's something you need to know, about the baby. I already know. She looked up. I had An draw blood while you slept, he said. I sent it to a laboratory in Zurich yesterday afternoon. They confirmed it this morning. There is a synthetic sequence spliced into the child's DNA. It is not natural. It is the second half of a decryption key. Marcus carried the first half. So he told me the truth. He told you enough of the truth to keep you moving. He did not tell you the rest, because if you knew, you would have run in a direction that got you killed. Nia let out a laugh that was almost a sob. That sounds like Marcus. Yes. What is on the other end of the key? Names, account numbers, photographs, enough to hang 40 men in 11 countries, enough to end the ring. Min-jae hesitated. Enough to end the man who is telling them what to do. Your father. Yes. The word sat in the air between them like something with weight. Outside, a gull called. A crane began its slow morning work. Somewhere far off, a ship's horn spoke once and stopped. What do you need from me? Nia said. Nothing. You have already done everything. The rest is mine. That is a stupid sentence and you know it. Min-jae almost smiled. He did not quite manage it, but the muscles tried. Fine, he said. I need you to stay alive for 6 more days. That is what I need from you. And after 6 days? After 6 days, I will either be dead or the man who killed my father twice. She held his gaze. She did not look away. Try the first option less hard. He inclined his head. I will consider it. The next 4 days were a slow, careful war. Min-jae's people moved money the way surgeons move scalpels. Every safe house in his network was emptied and repopulated with decoys. Two of his own captains were quietly detained in a boat off Ganghwa Island after their phones showed calls to a number in Vladivostok that Cha Do-yoon recognized. A judge in Busan, who had taken money from the ring for 11 years, was photographed handing an envelope to a woman who was not his wife, and the photograph was mailed to his daughter. The judge resigned by lunchtime. Small wounds in the right places at the right depth. Meanwhile, the ring did not sit still. A drone with a thermal camera passed over the port warehouse district on the second night and was shot down over the water by a man Min Jae had hired sight unseen because he answered his phone on the first ring. On the third afternoon, an explosion tore the front off On's clinic. On had already been gone for 36 hours. Two men in dark coats stood in the wreckage for 6 minutes before the police arrived, and one of them turned his face up briefly to the sky. The camera on the traffic light across the street caught his profile. Min Jae stared at the photograph for a long time in the container's dim light. "Is it him?" Cha Do-yeon asked. "It is him. He is not hiding anymore." "No, he wants me to see him. He wants me to come." "That is a trap, Min Jae. I know it is a trap." "Then, every door I have walked through in my life has been a trap, Do-yeon. You learn to walk through them with a plan." That night, the baby moved so hard that Nia gasped in her sleep and woke herself. She sat up in the dark of the container and listened to the rain on the metal roof and did not know for a moment where she was, or which country, or which year. Then she remembered. She got out of bed carefully. She opened the door. Min Jae was there. He was always there. He was sitting on the crate with his coat around his shoulders and a book open in his lap that he was not reading. "Contractions?" he said, standing. "Just a kick. He's angry about something." "He?" "I don't actually know. I just call him he in my head. My mother said Marcus was the same way. Punched her from the inside like he had somewhere to be." Min Jae let the book close. "Nia," he said. It was the first time he had used her first name. "Tomorrow morning I need to leave for 2 days. I need to cross a border. I need to bring your brother home." Her hand went to her mouth. "He is inside a facility in the north," Min Jae said. "He has been for 18 months, willingly. He was gathering the last of the evidence. He cannot come out on his own anymore. I have 6 men. We will go through a tunnel that has not been used since 1974. If we come back with him. If we do not come back, Cha Do-yeon will move you tonight to a house in Jeju that no one alive besides him knows about. You will have money. You will have a new name. The baby will be safe. Do you understand?" "No. That is fair. Don't die." "I will consider it," he said again, and this time the smile almost happened. He left before dawn. For 2 days, Nia lived inside a silence that felt like water pressing on her ears. Cha Do-yeon brought her food. Cha Do-yeon brought her a small radio. Cha Do-yeon sat outside the door and read newspapers in 3 languages and did not talk unless spoken to. On the second night, she asked him if he was afraid. "Yes." "Of what?" "Of what he will be when he comes back. If he comes back." "You think he'll be different?" "I think a man who finds out his father built the road he has been walking his whole life does not walk the same way afterward." AP. She thought about that for a long time. They came back at 4:14 in the morning of the 3rd day. She heard the container door unlock. She heard boots on the concrete outside. She heard a voice she had not heard in 14 months, hoarse and thinner than she remembered, say, "Where is she?" She was on her feet before she knew she had stood up. Marcus walked in first. He had lost 20 pounds. His hair was longer. There was a fresh cut across his eyebrow and a bandage around his left hand. He stopped in the doorway and stared at his sister, and for a second, his face did the thing faces do when a person has been holding themselves together with wire, and the wire finally snaps. "Hey, kid," he said. She hit him in the chest. Then she hit him again. Then she held onto him so hard, the bandage on his hand started to bleed through, and he did not let go of her. And behind them, Min Jae leaned against the doorframe and looked away because it was not his moment. There was no time to be tender about it. There were 3 hours, maybe 4, before the ring realized the northern facility had been emptied and reacted. Marcus spoke fast, in the same low voice he had used when he read her bedtime stories through her cracked open bedroom door in Chicago 20 years earlier. The full archive is on a drive stitched into the lining of my jacket, he said. Half of it is encrypted to my DNA. The other half is encrypted to the baby's. Both halves are needed. Neither half works alone. When we release it into 42 newsrooms simultaneously, plus Interpol, plus the U.S. Senate. The ring will try to kill the news before the news kills them. We have one shot at this. When? Minjai said. Tonight. There is an economic summit happening at the Grand Joseon. Live broadcast in 23 countries. Every anchor in Asia will already be in the room. If we push the archive to the wire at 8:47 p.m., the news breaks live on stage. He will not have time to contain it. He will come for us. He will come for us the second he sees the first headline. Where? Marcus looked at Min Jae for a long moment. Where would he come if he wanted you to be alone? Min Jae did not have to answer. They both knew. The Cheongye Tower had 81 floors. Min Jae's private office occupied the top 3. There was a helipad on the roof and a bar on the 80th, and a set of bulletproof windows that ran floor to ceiling on the 79th. It was the tallest building in that part of the city. It was, more importantly, the building his father had bought under a false name in 1998, the year Min Jae had turned 7, and the year his father had disappeared for the first time. At 8:31 p.m., Marcus pressed a series of keys on a laptop in a rented office 6 blocks from the Grand Joseon. At 8:47 p.m., every screen in the summit hall went black, then blue, then filled with a rolling list of names. 2 cabinet ministers stood up. A finance chairman knocked over his water glass. The moderator, live on air, said, I don't know what this is. And then he read the first name, because he was a professional. And by the time he had read the 7th name, 3 foreign delegations had already left the room. At 8:49 p.m., Kang Min Jae's phone rang. He did not answer it. He looked at the screen. It read simply, Father. He answered it. I am on the roof, his father said. I know. Come alone. I will. You always were the obedient one. Min Jae hung up. He kissed the top of Nia's head. It surprised her, and it surprised him, and neither of them commented on it. He nodded once to Marcus. He walked to the elevator. He rode it to the 81st floor with his hands loose at his sides. The roof was concrete and steel and open sky. The storm had come back. Rain fell in curtains lit orange from below by the city lights. The helipad's landing crosses were painted in old white paint that had started to peel. On the far edge, near the drop, a man stood with his back to Min Jae. He was Min Jae's height. He was Min Jae's build. When he turned, he had Min Jae's face but aged forward 25 years, the jawline slightly softer, the eyes exactly the same. Son, do not call me that. His father smiled. It was a small, patient smile. You are angry. Of course you are angry. Anger is a phase. It passes. Not this one. I built you. You did not. I built the room you grew up in. I built the men you fought. I built the friend who betrayed you. I built the war you won at 26. Every stone in the road under your feet, Min Jae, I laid it. You are the most successful thing I have ever made. I am not a thing you made. Then what are you? Min Jae did not answer immediately. He walked forward across the wet concrete. His father did not move. When Min Jae was 5 paces away, he stopped. I am the man who is standing between you and a woman whose brother you tried to kill, he said. I am the man who is standing between you and a child who has not been born yet. That is all I am tonight. Tomorrow I will be something else. Tonight I am only that. His father's smile faltered for the first time. You would throw an empire away for a stranger. She is not a stranger. You would throw your blood away. You threw mine away 21 years ago. I am simply keeping the tradition. The old man moved. He was faster than a man his age should have been. A knife came out of his sleeve, a small thing, matte and short-bladed, meant for close work. Min Jae stepped inside the arc. He caught the wrist. He twisted. The knife clattered on the concrete and slid toward the edge. His father's other hand came up with a small silver pistol. Min Jae saw it a half second before it fired. He turned his shoulder into it. The bullet went through the meat above his collarbone and out the back of his coat. He did not fall. He did not let go of the wrist. They struggled. His father was strong. Minjai was younger. They went sideways across the roof, and the storm turned everything into slow-motion glass, and the pistol fired again into the air, and then the concrete beneath the outer railing gave a soft, terrible groan. The railing had been rusting since 1998. His father had never repaired it. His father was standing on it. "Let go," his father said. He was gripping Minjai's coat with both hands now. Blood was running from the corner of his mouth. "You let go. I let go. We both live. You hold on, we both die. Choose." Minjai looked at him. He looked at the face that was his own face. He thought about a boy in a hospital corridor in Busan at the age of 7, identifying a body that had not been his father's. He thought about Cha Do-yoon's white hair. He thought about a silver lighter on a white tablecloth. "You never gave me a choice in my life," Minjai said. "I am not giving you one now." He held on. The railing broke. His father fell. Minjai dropped to his stomach on the wet concrete, one hand hooked into a bolt on the intact section of railing, the other hand clamped around his father's wrist. For 3 long seconds they hung there, father below, son above, rain hammering the space between them. "Pull me up," his father said. Minjai looked down at him. His shoulder was on fire. His fingers were slipping. "I would have to trust you." "Yes." "I don't." He did not let go. His father let go. It was, in the end, the last thing his father chose to do on his own, to spare his son the exact shape of that particular sin. He fell into the dark between the buildings and the wind took his coat, and he was gone before the sound reached the street. Minjai lay on his back on the concrete for a long time with the rain in his eyes. When his men found him, he was still holding the small mat knife his father had dropped, and he was laughing quietly without joy, the laugh of a man who has finally set down something he did not know he had been carrying. They took him to An, who had reappeared as she always did in a different neighborhood, in a different coat. She dug the bullet out of his shoulder without comment. Cha Do-yun stood in the doorway and did not speak for an hour. Marcus stood in the other doorway with his sister leaning against him, and when the local news channel began at 11:12 p.m. to name the 7th cabinet minister, Marcus reached over and turned the volume down, because Naya's water had just broken and there were, suddenly, more urgent broadcasts to attend to. The baby was born at 3:41 in the morning in a private wing of a hospital Minjai now owned outright, 6 pounds, 4 ounces, with a healthy pair of lungs and his uncle's dark, patient eyes. Nia named him Marcus because there was only ever going to be one name. By the end of that week, 41 arrests had been made across 11 countries. The ring's Asian operations collapsed into itself the way a wet paper bag collapses when you lift it wrong. 2 prime ministers resigned. A bank in Liechtenstein failed on a Tuesday. Interpol issued red notices at a pace their press office could not keep up with. Minjai did not go back to the empire he had built. Not the way it had been. He kept the buildings, he kept the men who had stayed loyal. He turned the rest into something the newspapers could not quite name, a network that funded shelters and paid for surgeries and twice a year in the small hours of the morning took a very particular kind of trafficker off the map entirely. It was not clean work. He had never claimed to be a clean man, but the streets of Seoul at 3 in the morning became, quietly, safer for the sort of women no one else had ever bothered to protect. 6 months after the roof, Minjai stood at the grave of a man who was not, as it happened, dead, an empty stone with Marcus Carter's name on it, kept only for the paperwork. Marcus himself was on a boat off Jeju that morning, teaching his nephew's small hand to grip a fishing line. Minjai came to the grave anyway. It had become a habit. There was a fresh white lily on the stone. He picked it up. On the underside of the ribbon, in a handwriting he had known since he was 29, someone had written, "You still owe me dinner." Below the words was a small ink drawing of a silver lighter with a tiger on its face. Minjai laughed. It was a sound none of his men had ever heard him make. He tucked the lily into the inside pocket of his coat and walked out into the rain, and if you had been standing across the street, you would have seen a very dangerous man smiling at nothing. The way a person smiles when they have finally understood a joke that took 5 years to land. That night, in a small apartment above a bakery in a neighborhood Nia had chosen herself, she rocked baby Marcus to sleep while the radiator ticked and the rain sang against the glass. She thought about the road that had brought her from a diner in Chicago to a rooftop in Seoul. She thought about her brother, alive somewhere south, teaching her son the names of fish. She thought about a man in a black coat who had, without ever quite saying so, become the strange, watchful edge of the small family she had built out of the wreckage. The baby's fingers closed around her thumb. He would not remember any of it. That was the whole point. If this story made your chest go tight even once, if you held your breath on that rooftop, if you flinched when the railing broke, if you smiled when the lily appeared, do the smallest thing that helps stories like this one find the next listener who needs them. Drop a like, leave one word in the comments, the moment you knew you were not going to stop listening. Send this to the person in your life who always says nothing surprises them anymore, and watch their face when they get to the roof. The next story is already loaded, and it is meaner and quieter, and it starts with a photograph slipped under a door and a girl no older than 12. Stay close. The rain in this city has not finished falling.